Helena Grignan, a simple 64-year-old woman, lost her son and daughter-in-law in an accident and was taking care of her only granddaughter at home. When Child Protective Services agents took the child, claiming she was unfit to raise her. In court, when the judge gave the child a chance to speak, everyone was shocked by what the girls said. The Glenn family was not exactly ordinary. The wife, husband, and their 4-year-old daughter lived in the small town of Yellowknife, a mountainous region in Canada. The mountains provided the couple with a livelihood for their family and the thrill that drove them. They worked as mountain guides, taking small groups of tourists to explore that almost unknown region of the country. In addition to night trails in search of the breathtaking northern lights, in the face of the phenomenon, tourists of all ages became like children. Some knelt, observing the sky move, others thanked in tears. Providing this experience filled the couple with pride and had more value than any financial reward. However, the couple's chosen career was among the most dangerous. Every time they started a trail, the list of things that could go wrong was extensive, from encounters with bears, falls into ice crevices to avalanches. One sunny afternoon, at 4 degrees Celsius, the couple was guiding a group through the mountains when a tourist had an accident due to recklessness. They had no choice but to stay with the young man until help arrived, since he had apparently broken his ankle and couldn't walk. The rest of the group managed to descend the mountain with the assistance of a third guide. In 45 minutes of waiting, the weather on that icy mountain turned into a threat. The wind increased, causing the wind chill to plummet. The couple didn't want to alarm the young man, but it was clear to them that those conditions could lead to a serious problem. Aerial and ground rescue teams were not authorized to ascend the mountain until the weather stabilized. In the town below, the unexpected snowstorm was already causing havoc. It was a matter of minutes until it reached the mountain, sweeping away everything in its path. 13 hours later, when the gusts of wind gave a respite, a rescue helicopter ascended to the location where the three were waiting. The team flew over the place and saw no one. 2 rescuers descended from the helicopter to search for them, but there was no sign of them and no one responded to their calls. After 20 minutes of searching, the rescuers were preparing to return to the helicopter and search elsewhere on the mountain. That's when one of them saw a glove on the ground. He delicately pulled the glove, revealing an outstretched arm attached to it. The rescue came too late. The couple's daughter, named Ellie, was only 4 years old at the time. She was with the babysitter, as usual, since the couple was working. The police then sought out the girl's grandmother, Helena Glenn, to deliver the sad news. Helena was a mature woman of 64, active and connected to her family. She spoke almost every day with her son and granddaughter via video calls, as she didn't leave home much to assist her wheelchair-bound husband, Harry Glenn. Helena Glenn was conducting business at the travel agency where she worked when she received a visit from the local police chief and was informed of her son and his wife's passing. Helena could not bear the pain and broke into tears right there, in front of clients and her boss. She had never cried so desperately and inconsolably before. During the funeral, Helena noticed that Ellie hadn't cried or spoken a single word. How could one know what was really going on in the girl's mind? What was the extent of her suffering or understanding of it all? "My love, I am here for you. Grandma will take care of you forever," Helena said, hugging her granddaughter, trying to comfort her. But no matter how much Helena tried, the girl's life was about to turn upside down. Helena's house was small, and Ellie no longer had her own room. The grandmother also did not have the same financial condition as the deceased parents of the girl, so she was forced to interrupt Ellie's French lessons and change her school. Helena suffered knowing that this was a terrible time for more changes in the girl's life, but her salary at the travel agency could only cover her costs and her husband's medications. Still, the grandmother did her best to make the girl comfortable and feel supported. Helena woke up early every day to prepare breakfast for her granddaughter and even managed to get some new toys at a Salvation Army bazaar held monthly in the town. The grandfather did what he could, but his limitations prevented him from playing as the girl liked to do with her father, running around the house with her in his arms, tossing her back and forth. Months had passed since the little girl moved into her grandmother's house, and a great concern lingered in Helena's mind. It had already been a year since the incident, and Ellie had not uttered a single word. You know, Amber, I'm very worried about this, Helena said to her coworker. Amber thought the silence might be normal for a 4-year-old. It must be the way she found to deal with the trauma, poor thing, right? The woman said. But that thought often did not leave Helena's mind. She thought she was doing everything wrong and that it was her fault. Helena's unease became more tangible when Ellie's new school teacher called the grandparents' house, demanding to speak to the girl's mother, as it was an urgent matter. Helena did not feel comfortable explaining where Ellie's mother was and just said that she could handle the matter. Well, be that as it may. I'm actually here to ask a question. How is she at home? Does she communicate well with you? Is she active in play? The teacher asked. When Helena replied that the girl had not started talking yet, everything worsened. Oh, ma'am, but that's not normal at all. A girl her age should already be talking and forming well-articulated sentences. I recommend that you take her to a doctor as soon as possible for proper evaluation, the teacher said. Helena scheduled an appointment for that same week. The pediatrician was very gentle during the consultation and examinations, which increased the grandmother's confidence. I'm sorry, Mrs. Helena, the doctor said while Ellie was playing in the waiting room, but her symptoms are very similar to those of a child experiencing post-traumatic stress. She is perfect in her physical health, but what happened to your son and daughter-in-law was a tragedy, and we cannot ignore that. The doctor added that Ellie could have lasting problems if her condition was not closely monitored. Helena was terrified by this and wanted to know what to do to help her granddaughter develop speech and become the sociable girl she used to be. The doctor said that, for now, she should give her a lot of attention, talk to the little girl very frequently, always encouraging her, even if she did not respond. As time passed, she might become more comfortable speaking. Additionally, he recommended regular consultations with a psychologist. Everything seemed to have a solution, but Helena soon realized that she needed two things she didn't have at all: time and money. Giving full attention to Ellie would consume the time of the day she was at work, and psychologist appointments would cost money that would leave the grandparents in debt. That afternoon, Helena talked to her husband about what was happening and made it clear that she didn't know how to resolve it. I'll find a job if necessary. I know nobody will want to hire an old man in a wheelchair, but I can try. Our granddaughter needs us, and we've been through everything in this life. Helena, this won't be what brings us down, the man said, holding his wife's hand with confidence. Helena was encouraged by Harry's determination, but in practice, things were much worse. The grandparents balanced between talking to their granddaughter and giving her space, encouraging her in the best way possible. They did everything to make Ellie not only comfortable but loved and secure again. Although they loved the girl, it was tiring to talk to her alone. But she was making progress. It was visible that the girl wanted to express herself. Helena and Harry were willing to sacrifice everything for their granddaughter. You could see glimpses of smiles that were becoming less shy on Ellie's face, especially when the elderly lady was in the kitchen, preparing some food and telling stories from her youth. Helena was truly dedicated, so focused on her granddaughter that she didn't notice what was about to happen in her life. On a Friday, the owner of the travel agency called Helena into her office and straightforwardly told her that she was fired. The expression on the grandmother's face was one of silent surprise. She knew she had devoted less time to work. In recent months, she left earlier when the traffic was slower and came in later on less busy days. However, everyone knew she had a child at home and thought they understood the effort she needed to make to take care of her granddaughter's mental health. This is a business, Helena. Without results, a business breaks. It's as simple as that. Helena was stunned. This was the worst possible time to be without a job. The director argued that the elderly woman was no longer as focused on work as before and did not yield the same results. Helena had worked at that agency for 12 years, practically since its opening, and demanded a more honest and assertive explanation, as she knew that her performance could not directly affect the agency's financial results. Do I really need to say it? You are a dinosaur in here and have been present throughout the life of the company, but you are no longer as efficient as you were before. You are outdated. Furthermore, your head seems to be in another world. A college friend will take your place starting Monday. You're fired." With no alternatives, Helena put her dignity aside, begged to keep her job, crying and saying that, without a salary, she would not be able to sustain the needs of her husband and granddaughter. But she only heard more harsh words from the young boss. "This girl isn't even your daughter. Give her up for adoption and let the universe take care of it," said the young director. After hearing this lamentable statement, Helena raised her head and left the place as quickly as possible. She didn't want to stay even one more second with that horrible woman. She didn't know how she would pay for her granddaughter's psychological treatment and the necessary medication for her husband. She also didn't know how to break the news to him and had to find the strength within herself to be able to go back home. But the way back gave Helena enough time to think of a way out. She barely arrived home and left again. She went from door to door on her street and then throughout her neighborhood, asking for a job and distributing her phone number. She spoke of her experiences and how she could work as a cleaner, chambermaid, cook, and even a caregiver. She was willing to do anything. After all, she needed money to support her family. Helena didn't know this, but Harry really tried to fulfill his promise. He called all his acquaintances in search of any job. The grandfather was completely attached to his granddaughter and would not jeopardize the progress they had already made. Despite the man's positive thinking, fate had not finished testing the limits of that family. Helena did not get any permanent job but started ironing and washing clothes for some neighbors. One day, when she was completely overwhelmed with work to do, her doorbell rang. Helena ran to answer the door and came face to face with a Child Protective Services agent. He had a complaint in hand and a court order to take the child away. "Good afternoon, ma'am. We received a complaint from a school that you are not able to keep a child in your home. According to the investigation, she doesn't socialize and doesn't even speak. Therefore, she has been a target of bullying at school. Moreover, you are an elderly woman and unemployed, working informally while taking care of a wheelchair-bound elderly man. It seems to be a matter of time before this child has nothing to eat or wear. We will continue with the investigations, but we are here to take the child to a suitable shelter preventively. You can appeal this decision in court, but in the meantime she will be safe with us," the agent said. Helena felt her whole body shiver and was paralyzed for a few seconds. She tried to physically stand between the officer and the girl but was stopped by the second officer. The girl showed no reaction, reinforcing the denunciation that she was neglected there. Then the Child Protective Services agent took the girl away, and the look he gave the grandmother was pleading. The girl didn't want to go. Helena was devastated when her husband woke up from the nap he was taking. He was stunned by the news and cried beside his wife. There were no words he could use to comfort his wife at that moment. All he could do was hire a public defender and fight to bring his granddaughter back. The following weeks were empty and colorless. The feeling was that everything had ended overnight. "I won't let them take my granddaughter from me. I know I'm not managing to do everything the way I would like, but I was on the right track. She needs me, just as I need her, and I will prove that to whoever it may concern," Helena said to herself while looking in the mirror and getting ready for the hearing that would take place in 2 hours in court. She told her entire story to the judge, from her son's death in the tragic mountain accident to her dismissal at the travel agency and the arrival of the officers at her door. Before deciding, the judge called the girl and spoke to her. "Hello, little girl. How are you? Tell me, are you well treated at Grandma and Grandpa's house?" With silence, that was all that was heard in the room. The girl maintained a serious expression for the judge. He leaned in and shook his head, thinking about what to do. He decided to ask another question to the little one. "Do you love your grandma, this lady sitting here in front of you?" The girl lowered her head and did not answer. Finally, the judge said, "If you have anything positive to say about your grandma, please tell us now. If there is nothing positive, remain silent." The girl remained silent, and that gave the judge certainty to pronounce his sentence. In the end, it was decided that Helena was not fit to take care of the child, and the little girl should continue in a shelter. "No, please, don't do this to me. I need her, please," Helena pleaded with screams completely in vain. The public defender who accompanied her remained silent and was not of much help in anything besides scheduling that hearing. Meanwhile, Helena was escorted out of the room by 2 officers before it turned into a scandal. When there was no more hope and all hearts in that room were shattered, a thin and unexpected voice emerged from the back of the room and echoed in everyone's ears, loud and clear. "Don't take my grandma away." Everyone stopped for a few seconds and looked at each other. The entire room was shocked to hear the girl speak so firmly. "I want to stay with my grandma." "I love you, Grandma," she said again. The judge of the session choked and coughed. Helena broke free from the guards and, with tears in her eyes, ran to the girl, gave her a tight hug, and promised never to let her go. Helena decided to appeal right there to the judge. Despite already having his decision, the man was decent enough to backtrack before making a terrible mistake and causing even more pain to that family. By granting custody to the grandmother again, he then questioned her dismissal and, in an almost informal conversation, encouraged the woman to sue not only the travel agency that fired her but also her ex-boss, since she had clearly violated labor laws and been prejudiced against Helena. She accepted the advice and proceeded with the complaint. A few months passed, and the elderly woman won the case against her ex-boss, with the appropriate compensation in hand. She could expand her house to build a room just for her granddaughter and, with part of the agreement in the lawsuit, now received the pension she deserved. Having enough time for her granddaughter, she encouraged her to speak more and more, ensuring that her traumas would be left in the past as far as Helena was concerned. The life she would have ahead would be full of moments of joy and love. Well, my friends, we have reached the end of our story today. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a like. Have a great session, and until the next video.